being a talent manager entail? And how does that differ from being an agent? A lot of people feel like once they get a manager, they need to have certain things in place, but what are, some of those things that you guys have kind of experienced over the years?
Sure, so I can start. So, there is a difference for sure when it comes to, finding an agent or a talent manager. Generally, agents are folks who just kind of go from job to job, they pitch, they, negotiate the deals, they're, on the phone, job. We're a manager, we're more day-to-day, we're more strategic. We're more, okay, we're at this level, how do we get to the next level? Okay, now we're here, how do we get to here? We help with your headshots, make sure all that stuff dialed in, your reels. If you got a couple of reels up on Actors Access and one of them is way too long, and I'm like, hey, let's cut this down. It's like 4 minutes. Like, no, it's not gonna work. We need like 2 minutes. So I'm helping you strategize with that kind of stuff. So a lot helping you with headshots as far as what to wear, helping you pick your photographer if you're in LA or New York, that kind of stuff. Where it's just literally with you day to day. Another thing as a manager is we're your pep squad. We're your handholders, we're your anchor, we're your psychiatrist sometimes. That's real. That's super true. So it's more of a personal touch.
100%. You said something that I'm gonna piggyback off of is you said we're your pep squad. And I always tell my clients that I'm two things to you. I'm your bodyguard and your cheerleader. That's my role. But also firefighter, psychologist, travel agent, lots of times.
True.
So lots of things. And your agent, I say, think of them as kind of like your attorney. You're not going to call them every day. They're super busy. They have lots of clients. So we're like the accessible ones, your hand holder, and molding your career, like he said, leveling up to the next step and creating that path, whatever it is to get there.
Yeah, and a lot of agents, when you guys go for agents, they actually have a bigger roster than a lot of management groups do, because that's their focus is job. They don't have time. What we do is we're more hands-on. We're not taking on 400 clients like some agents do, because we just don't have that bandwidth. That's just ridiculous. So we have more of a strategized approach to that, and we handpick, obviously, and we want to keep, not a super small squad, but small enough so we can handle the day-to-day to that. And you don't want to get too big, where now I'm not giving someone attention, because now we're wasting, I don't want to waste their time. I don't want to waste their time, but I don't want them to waste my time. So we're very strategic about who we bring on to.
So with that being said, what makes a good manager? Is it the person who can kind of be the hand holder, the one who you can reach out to regularly? What are some attributes that makes a good manager?
Well, I will say, you guys are in the right room, because
True.
Established Artists and Bohemia Group are probably two of the top management companies in the country, in LA and New York specifically. So to me, what makes a good manager is one that is doing what Joe and I said, because what ends up happening lots of times is some managers will end up acting just like an agent. They just pitch and submit all day long, and they're not doing those other things. That's not a good manager. In that case, you're paying two agents, and that doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, and you want to have someone who communicates. That is my number one thing. If you're going to take anything down during this entire weekend, write down the word communication, because that is the biggest mother effing thing about this entire industry, is communicating with your reps. And it's and we're there for you. And I'm not saying blow up your manager 6 times a day, asking what they're doing, or how come they haven't booked you or anything, or how come so-and-so, I want to go in for this role. I'm not saying that. I'm saying communicate with them about what you're working on, what are your thoughts. Is it time for new headshots? I'm booking out. Hey, I'm going to be out of town. You need to tell your manager it's important, because if you're going to be out of town, we need to know that. So that, little things like that. Communication is so big with not just your agent, but especially your manager.
And so, when is an actor ready for a manager? And do managers take on developmental actors? What are some good things to know if you wanted to pursue a manager?
Sure. So, everyone is different in this specific question. Your question is, when's time for a manager? When you have something to manage is my answer to that. When you've got a couple co-stars under your belt, you just got a nice supporting role in a feature film, you just booked 2 national commercials. Okay, all right, there's some heat now. Now there's some stuff that you can grasp onto, and it might be time for a manager. Now, I'm not saying I'm going to go down to Chili's and I'm going to find a waitress and she's got a great look and she's got 0 credits, but she wants to be an actress and I'm happy to be a manager and the manager might bring her on. There's no blueprint for that. That could happen. It's rare, just so you know, it's rare, but that could happen. So through my experience, I would say have just a little bit of a resume, have a little bit of momentum when in your search.
Yeah. The only thing I'd add to that is sometimes the momentum isn't even acting. I brought in clients who stand-up comedians, I used to rep athletes, and so it doesn't necessarily even have to be momentum that's acting if that's the route you want to go. There's got to be something that we can utilize to capitalize on.
Okay, so what can talent do to pitch themselves to you guys? So when they're looking to be maybe obtain a manager, and maybe they've obtained a co-star, they've done a little bit, but they're still kind of working, so there's not a big, resume to really capture their attention. What are some things that they can do to maybe get you to look at them?
I go off of energy, and I do a lot of energy. Every relationship I've ever had, whether it's whatever, it's energy. It's being in the room, having that synergy, eye contact, getting a feel for you. And if something is there, if I'm compelled to want to learn more, or if I'm compelled to ask more questions, and it is something, you know what I mean? Like I'll know within 30 seconds. That's just for me. As far as submitting, if you're just blind emailing somebody or for a manager, I always say do a little research. Go on IMDb, find out their roster, make sure there's really no one like you or they don't have too many of your type on their roster. That's a big key. Stuff like that. Go to their website, go to the company's website, find a little bit about the manager. We all have bios on our pages. We talk about stuff all the time, where we're from, previous jobs. I worked in radio for years, so sometimes people will talk about that, all that stuff. So that is it's a good start. Like, you don't want to just send an email, hey, here's me, and I know nothing about you. I'll be a great asset to your roster. Cool, bye. Like, it's like, you want to have there's got to be a connection. That's a key part. It's like any relationship and anything that you do, it's got to be a connection.
I agree. And if you have representation, the emails that I get that are going to get a look for sure is a referral from your rep. And then second on that list is a referral from somebody that I trust on my roster. But a lot of times when I get an email that's just a blind email, if it's like addressed and I know it went out to 100 people, I don't even read it. So it's important not to just send out an email. This is for agents too, to a representative and just be like, hi, and it's boilerplate. You should know who you're going to be working with. This is a relationship. And with a manager, almost like a marriage. True. Really. And so if you don't know how they manage, what their style is, you probably shouldn't even reach out. Do the research, as Joe said, for sure.
So with that, there was another session today, the social media session, and she mentioned a suggestion for a lot of people to start, developing a relationship online, maybe liking photos, or not necessarily, sending DMs, but just creating like an informal. Is that something you guys think is a good way for a talent to be able to reach out and kind of develop a relationship prior to making like a cold submission?
Yeah, absolutely. I think in today's world, we gotta have a leg up, and what better way to do that is through social media. But you gotta know the line. There's a line in the sand. You can't be like all up in your DMs and like just full court press, and like that's a turnoff. Just like any relationship. If a guy's in the girl's DMs, like, yo girl, what's up? What's good? Like, she like, who's this fun? You know what I mean? Like, that's real. And just like a manager or a rep. So do it, I like that, like a few comments or say something positive, or that stuff stands out. And yeah, for sure, I support that.
I support it as well. I've used social media to really, if I see somebody on social media and I like their material, I follow them. I do like their things. And I have clients on my roster who that relationship was cultivated from social media over, a period of time. So I think if it's natural and organic and not forced, those can develop into good opportunities to build relationships.
Yeah, well, think about that, guys. And so I guess, okay, so from that stance, you also mentioned using an agent as a referral. So what if, there's no representation at all and the manager is probably their first route? I know you just mentioned, Joe, that some managers just do submissions as though they're an agent. But if this is like maybe your first time getting a rep, or you just don't necessarily have an agent at the moment, does it make sense to have a manager and not have an agent?
I probably go against the grain a little bit on this one because I know what I do every single day. And I think Joe and I kind of align is we do pitch and submit just like an agent every day, but we also do the other components that we spoke about. And every once in a while, I will meet somebody who I talk about that energy, like I see something really great. And so if you don't have an agent, I think it's okay personally to seek out a manager who that might be part of the plan. This person's amazing, they have something tangible, and then we can help you get an agent. That might be part of the plan. Now, it is a little bit of an avant-garde path to have a manager first, but I'm not opposed to it. There are people in my office who won't take a client if they don't have an agent already. Everybody's different, every manager is different, and this is part of the research that you should be doing before you're reaching out to managers. But if I was an actor and I didn't have either, I would pursue a manager first. And that's a personal thing, because if you line 10 of us up, we'd all say 10 different things regarding that, for sure.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And if you don't have an agent, I like what you said earlier, is that you lean on the manager. If you get a manager, you lean on them to help you find the agent, because we have the relationships. We know a ton of great agents. They're going to respond to us compared to if you were just to reach out coldly. I don't get it. Like, they're not going to respond to you, most likely. But if we come at them with a referral, say, hey, take a look at our client. They're solid. Here's why. Blah blah blah. They're going to read the email at least, because we have a relationship with them, and there's trust. Trust is very important.
So, with that being said, how can talent keep their managers happy? Oftentimes, when
A bag of cash. Joke, y'all. Don't be any.
Aside from looking, because we know, looking to help everyone to kind of maintain their relationship, it keeps the wheel turning. But what are some things that can be done that maintain that? Because sometimes people get nervous. Are they going to drop me? I haven't booked anything. I haven't gotten a call back. What do I do? What are some things that actors can do to make sure that they're, staying top of mind and also maintaining a positive image if they just haven't really been looking at?
There's easy answers to this question, which is do what we ask you to do, because if we're asking you to do them, it's part of the plan. There's a reason. If we say get new headshots, it's because maybe the ones we have are great, but just not working. Or if we're asking you to take a class, maybe the last few self-tapes you've turned in, we're they need a little bit of help with this. My rule is I don't want to feel like I'm swimming against the current. So if I have a relationship with a client and I just feel like there's resistance, it's no longer a fit. And it's nothing personal, because I probably am way too close to my clients in terms of I know when their baby showers are and when their birthdays are.
Which is dangerous. That's very dangerous.
It is, because then you get to a point where maybe in the business side, it's really hard to let go. But I've come to a point, I think, in my career where I just I want somebody to give me back equal what I'm giving out, and I give a whole lot. I really do, every single day. So that's kind of my role. If I feel like I'm swimming against the current, then I can't. We have to part ways.
Right, and that's not the end of the world either. I just got dropped, what am I going to do? Woe is me. And keep marching, because it's not the end of the world. There are plenty of managers and agents out there, and it could be it could be a number of reasons why they did it. Who knows? They could be folded. Who the hell? You know what I mean? Or that agent or manager is leaving the company, and they got to get rid of their clients. It happens all the time. So you don't know. You guys, actors just take things personal. I get it. You guys are emotional beings. God bless you. I get it. And so you honestly, it might have nothing to do with you, but if it does, just dust yourself off. Make sure your materials are lined up for the next one and the next. Until you might go through 3 or 4 different agents or 3 or 4 different managers until you find your one. Yeah. Until you find the one. Just like a marriage. Again, back to the relationship. If But it is true. It's true.
Right, hopefully you want to get it right the first time, but you never know, right?
People get married 5-6 times.
Right. One of them hopefully will work. So, okay, so then specifically in the Southwest, what are some, I guess, good tips for people to obtain representation? From your perspective as a manager.
Representation in the Southwest or in LA?
In the Southwest. Or even LA, we'll include LA as well.
Okay, so I think fortunately in the Southwest, it's easier to get Southwest representation. And then managers, regardless of where we're based, it doesn't matter if we're in LA or New York or Atlanta or wherever, we have one manager. Like not one here and one in Canada and one, no, it's one manager. Okay, so at least I think we
You're right.
we agree on
Absolutely.
that, right? So,
And that's globally too.
it's globally.
We have international clients, and sometimes they'll come to us saying, "Well, I have a manager in Portugal." Like, well, then we're not going to do a split. That's not what you do. You have one manager that has you worldwide.
Right, bodyguard, cheerleader. So I think that in the Southwest, in Arizona, New Mexico, Utah, it's a little bit easier to get representation here. In the LA market or any of the other markets, it's a little bit more difficult. Again, aligning yourself with a good agent wherever the region is and utilizing that relationship to help you get a manager or vice versa, as we spoke about before, that's a good path, I think.
So, as you guys just mentioned, if you have a manager and they're representing you globally, does that mean you're submitting them globally, the talent? Like, so if you have a manager, say, based in the Southwest or in LA or wherever it is, are you being submitted everywhere also? I think that's probably why people get managers or representation maybe in other regions.
Well, managers are not regional. Agents are regional. So if you have an agent in Canada, for example, I have a client who is basically like Tom Cruise in Ghana. He couldn't walk down the street in Ghana. He has an agent in Ghana, and he also has an agent in England, and he has an agent in Canada, and he has an agent in LA, Atlanta, New York. But he has one manager. So yes, he's being submitted by his agents in all of those regions. But if something comes up, I'm managing those things. I don't have breakdowns in Ghana, but if he gets something in Ghana, I'm still involved in that process.
Okay. And so basically your client has to let you know what other areas they have agents in and how they're being represented there, so you know what you need to do.
I have
in those
communication
spaces.
with anybody that they have a relationship with. But yeah, there wouldn't be anybody that I'm not aware of.
Yeah. You guys, think of you guys as, you guys are as the actor, you guys are the head of the food chain. You are the owner. And then there's the director of operations. That's the manager. Then they have directors of sales. That's the agents. That's like the order. So when you have all these different agents, it's great. But your manager is right below you as far as making decisions and helping you navigate all that stuff. You know, they're with you every step of that way. Working with the agents, because they're kind of scattered all over, making sure negotiations are going well, making sure we're getting the most we can for the money, making sure accommodations are handled, you know, if you're flying in, all that, passports, all that stuff. So we're like, you know, we're your right hand, essentially, to the business. You are a business. We are your right hand, essentially. And the agents are, like I said, directors of sales, and they're out scattering, looking for the next job for you. And we are too. We obviously we're very involved with the whole thing. We're doing more than just that. To answer your question about international stuff, yes, we do submit folks for international stuff if it makes sense, and if you have a passport, and if you can work overseas. That's another big part of it too. You know, we deal with O1 visas and all that stuff and passports, so it could get a little tricky on some of the stuff that's shooting in, you know, UK or Australia or that stuff. But that's on each individual basis.
Yeah, because I know like some offices, you know, like you said with agents, you're able to have an agent in different areas. You could be with the same agency, but not necessarily work in different markets. So it's interesting to see how managers function. But to that end, when you're submitting your talent, do you guys make sure before you, I guess, take on new talent, what areas they can be submitted in, or what kind of, like, what's your process for having a conversation with your talent before you're able to take them on?
So again, for me, and this is definitely very personal, I'm sure, everybody would have a different opinion, is I don't take, I don't have a roster for LA, a roster for Atlanta, a roster for New York. I have just a roster. So sometimes the decision of whether somebody is going to be a fit for me is where they're available. And for me, I really need my clients to be available across the board because, as Joe said, we don't carry giant rosters. I have 50 clients. So if you do the math, that's not a lot of money if they're not working, right? So I can't limit a client to just LA and then not take on another client that looks like them because my roster doesn't have any conflicts, meaning like if I have a Latina woman between 30 and 40, I have one Latina woman between 30 and 40 on my roster, unlike an agent who might have 4, 5, 6, 7 of that profile. I only have one. So if that one person on my roster can only work in Arizona, it doesn't work for me. But again, everybody's a little different in that.
So we're very similar to that. Yeah. There's no like regional dictation where if you fit something in New York, if you fit something in Atlanta or Toronto or Seattle, or LA, New Mexico, we're sending you in, and I'll make sure. And when I bring people on, I make sure they're fully available for all this stuff, and then that they're ready to go. And that's a couple of things we vet right away as far as what won't you do and what stuff you will do. And sometimes clients come at us like, hey, I don't want to do co-stars, or which is totally fine if they have a resume like that, or I don't want to do horror movies because whatever, or I don't want to do this. We'd like to know that up front just so we have an idea before taking them on, obviously.
Right. And so to that extent, do you also submit your clients for everything, commercial, film, television, theater, or do you have like certain things that you focus on?
I submit everything as long as the client wants to. So I have some theatrical clients who are like no commercial, which is fine. And I have some clients who do only theater, and that's fine. But again, I would know that up front. I wouldn't like sign and be like, oh, by the way, I don't do any TV and film, I only do theater. These are conversations that we have up front, but we have access to everything.
Yeah.
Voiceover, hand modeling, all that
That's real.
stuff. Yeah.
I was saying, we submit, we see commercial, we see theater, theatrical, of course. Sometimes this could get tricky. Sometimes there are commercial agents that don't want their managers to submit for commercials, we have seen, to which we say, you're not the boss of us, don't tell us what to do. And we do that. So, because why would, there's more of us going after it. Why is it a conflict? And you're still going to get the money anyway, shut up. Like, you know what I mean? Don't make sense. That's just us. Everyone, every group's different.
Yeah, well, no, that's actually a good point though, because as a manager, as a talent, you can have a manager and an agent. You can also have multiple commercial agents. And so with everyone submitted, does it cause a conflict? Not just meaning the commercial agent maybe doesn't want it, but does it cause a conflict when it comes to casting and you're submitting, they're getting the same submissions from different places? Like, how do you actually kind of vet all that and work it out?
I mean, you're bound to, I think it's humanly impossible for your client not to be double submitted for stuff out of LA or New York.
Yeah.
Because we're not communicating with the agent, hey, you guys going for this? Oh, we are too. Like, there's not enough time in the day.
Yeah.
When stuff comes up, it's just a fluid motion.
Yeah.
So I imagine there's double submissions a lot.
Yeah. The only thing that I would add to that is there's definitely double submissions, and I don't see anything wrong with that. Where it can get hairy for sure is when a client has too many reps, and that is one of the things that I check before I will bring anybody onto my roster. Is I did have a client that I think there was an agent in Hawaii, Texas, New Mexico, Illinois, New York, LA, probably more. And I think that some people think it's alluring to have like, oh, I have these reps everywhere. It's actually not. And I do believe that in more than one instance, it actually cost her work because she auditioned through one agency, and then callback information came to a different one, and they didn't know what the heck was happening, and she never got the information. That's one instance, and I'm sure there was probably more. So, yeah, I personally, if somebody has like a ton of reps, it's like a turn off for me in terms of representation.
Yeah, I'm leery about it as well because of that. And then, you know, you can get a booking in the Southwest, and you've got two agents, and one overlaps, and then one doesn't, and then who gets the commission? And now, as a manager, you're in the middle of it, and it's a mess. That's why communication. I go back to my original statement of communication, because everyone needs to be in a loop, and a lot of times when it comes down to that, not everyone's in the loop with that stuff. So it does get hairy sometimes, but we figure it out. It gets handled.
Yeah.
So what about negotiating? I've heard, and you guys can debunk this if it isn't true, but when it comes to submitting work, once a contract needs to be signed, is the manager able to do the negotiating, or do you need to have an agent to kind of be a third party with that?
This is a good one. Go ahead.
Okay, so managers should not negotiate money. However, you don't need an agent to negotiate money. We have an attorney for our office, so if we get a deal for a client who doesn't have an agent, our attorney negotiates it for us. Now, I can negotiate your trailer, I can negotiate, other things, but technically speaking,
legally.
we don't have to negotiate money.
Sometimes you try to cheat.
We're not going to lose a job if we have 2 hours to get back to
That's
school.
right. Good
Right.
point.
So,
Very good point.
and this is the thing where you see like the formal side of things and then the more informal. So, and it's always good to know, because a lot of times from the actor's side, you don't know. You just know you're getting the job and you're just happy to have it.
Right.
And whatever happens in the background, you want to make sure you're getting paid. But like, what are some other things that maybe are differences that maybe managers are limited in, or that managers can do more of in terms of like the job? And if you have an agent versus a manager, or if you have an attorney, right, an entertainment attorney versus having a manager, what are some things that a manager has the ability to do, or maybe some things that the manager is limited by?
It's a good question. It's kind of a tricky one. I think, negotiating for one, we really can't technically negotiate. Legally.
Right?
Legally. Well, tripping. But that's why it's, when clients have an agent, we keep them in a loop and they'll handle that. But we're working with them side by side. So I'm usually on the phone with them, with the agent. My client's like, all right, you handle it great. I'm on the phone with the agent saying, all right, what's the rate? Could we get a little more? We just came off of the show. We just did a recurring guest star in here. Here's the money we got. So now we're going back and forth and let them handle it.
Right.
Because that's part of their job.
Yeah.
So I'm still involved, but they're the one actually dealing with casting or the producers about that.
Okay.
A lot of times too, more times than should be, is the agents will just want to close a deal, and we're like, no. We need double scale, we need this because of, like Joe said, hey, they have 4 co-star credits, can we at least get a little bit more money? So the difference, I think, between agents and managers too is, again, going back to that bodyguard thing, is we're literally just not going to close a deal to close a deal. We want you to level up every single time you're booking something. We're trying to get you to the next point in your career strategically. And so we do kind of monitor and make sure that people are not just closing. I do see this happen more often in the smaller regions. Oh my God, we have a booking, let's close it. And I have been out of the loop in some of those, and then the agent's not happy to hear from me. So.
Right, that's the situation. If an agent closes a deal, an offer comes in and they close it, and the email's sent, okay, we close this, by the way, that's legal and that's all over. There's no more negotiating.
Right.
It's over. Done. So you're stuck. And if that happens, it has happened once to me before, I lost it. Because we had room to get more. We had just got something big, and why are we not getting more? So, yeah, you don't want to be an agent on that side, for sure. But they usually that doesn't happen, but sometimes it does.
Every once in a while, it does. And as an actor too, it's your job to take it upon yourself to make sure that your reps are including all of your team.
That's right.
And it's also your job to make sure that they're not closing deals without telling you first.
Right.
You should at least have the opportunity to say, yeah, I'm good with those terms.
Mm-hmm. And make sure, and the ball stops at you guys, make sure your whole team is involved. So check the email, make sure everyone's involved, or make the calls. Don't be the one to drop the ball. Oh, I should have, I didn't think of including like, what do you mean? You think of that. Like, this is your team. This is important. Because we're trying to get you more money, so why wouldn't you? You know what I mean? So, that happens.
And of course, that I will say, to a certain point, so if this is like your first credit and you're saying 2 lines and they're offering you set scale, there's probably not a ton to negotiate there. But if just coming off of like a recurring something or a nice meaty co-star, you want to obviously make it reasonable too. Because if a client comes to me and is like, yeah, I'm saying yes, sir, and I want, a weekly scale, it's not going to work probably.
So then how does that work in terms of commissions? So if, let's just say an opportunity is booked through an agent, and you maybe didn't have much involvement, does it matter that the...
No.
Okay. Yeah, no, I feel like it's something that maybe, a lot of actors just aren't sure of. Like, especially if you have, like you said, representation in different areas, and if you're booking in different areas, like, do you still go back to your manager? And a lot of times I feel like, just amongst people that I know, we informally just make sure that our entire team is getting paid, just because you just want to keep everyone happy. And the fact of the matter is they're working even when you're not.
Yeah.
Like,
and the managers get paid no matter what. If it comes from us or not, the manager gets a percentage, gets commission. That's just how it is, because we do something like, we're working literally every day to on your behalf, whether it's phone calls, whether it's submissions, whether it's whatever, helping with headshots and your reels, all that stuff. So that is why we take a piece of all of it, because we are with you every step of the way. Whether it's endorsements, or of course theatrical, or you do cameo, we're going to take that too, whatever, you know what I mean? Whatever you got coming in, but you want us on there too. You want us with you because we're going to negotiate the best thing for you, so we're going to get you money. So it's not, everyone wins, everyone gets to eat, you know what I'm saying? That's what we live for, we love that stuff, but we get a victory, and you get paid, your reps get paid, that's a win for everybody, and that just brings joy to all of us, and we want to keep doing it. Do it again, and that's what we love.
So when it comes to that, being able to make sure everybody is eating, and you're submitting and you're getting all these jobs, like, does it matter in terms of percentage? Is it the same percentage no matter what, or does it adjust based on how many people are involved? Does it make a difference to you?
No, I mean, usually it's I don't know on behalf of you guys, but we're 10%. A lot of them, most are 10, 15%. I'm a little leery when I see people getting 20% or 25 or even 30. That's a little high. That's a little aggressive. But usually 10 or 15 is the pocket for commissions on managers. Agents are 10. They're strictly 10. Managers are, most are in that same line as well.
Yeah, our office is 10% across the board, union, non-union,
Right.
commercial,
theatrical, everything, voiceover, all.
Okay, and have things changed for you guys since everything has gone virtual? Now that you can actually see your clients' auditions, and there's a little bit more information that you have regarding what it is that they're doing when they're submitting?
Yeah, I like what's happening. Yes and no. I do miss clients getting to the room because of the real life interaction with casting. And casting can give in-room notes. And hey, we loved it, try this again. Compared to where you guys are doing self-tapes now, it's one and done. It's here it is. Once it's out, see ya. But I get to see it. And now, because before, you guys go in a room, and I wasn't there, so I'm just assuming it went well. How'd it go? It went great. Hey, don't hang on the car then. You're good to go. And so, it doesn't happen. I like that option of now seeing what you guys do, and it also shows me other sides of you. Now I'm seeing different character views and what you can do, and what your strong suit. So, I'm a fan. I like it.
I love it. And my career was a little bit different because when I got into management, I repped athletes first. But when I shifted to actors, I have a very heavy Atlanta roster, and they've always done self-tapes.
Right.
So LA and New York kind of caught up with them, I feel like, in that respect. So I didn't have like a ton of experience with people going into the room and having that anxiety. So I feel a little bit, different.
I forgot Atlanta was always self-tape.
Always self-tapes.
Forgot about that.
Yeah. So,
Wow.
I had it more with commercial, because commercial even today, it's still like, you gotta come in. But with theatrical stuff, I was always kind of in that self-tape world. And so I love that LA and New York is doing it now. And I love that they're booking off of first tape and not callback.
Yeah.
That's amazing, because it just creates more opportunity.
So given the changes that we've seen in our industry when it comes to, self-tapes and just overall, what are some things that you guys would still like to see changed, just from your perspective as a manager?
Well, I mean, I do like the self-tapes. I wouldn't mind if we, after first looks, send the tape in and then people getting back into the room for chemistry reads and that kind of stuff. There's been a little bit of that, not a ton. Everyone's still kind of offering off the tape and stuff. Whether that goes back full time or it remains to be seen. What else do I wish could change, or would I wish?
Even just from as this being your career, what are some things that would make your lives easier? Some things that you've seen have changed that have improved your job. Some things that you would like to change. Because just from the back end, there's a lot of things that you're dealing with that the actor may not have anything to do with that you have to do to get your job done.
Well, I don't know that we'll ever get it, but I do wish that there was some process for us to get just a little bit of feedback in some way, shape, and form from casting offices. Even if it's like, just a check a box, like they subbed, this was amazing. But that's, I feel like we've streamlined everything so much that it does create time and opportunity for casting offices to just say, we loved them, they had the wrong hair color. Because psychologically, that helps with when our clients are, and for us, they're turning in amazing tapes, and sometimes we just don't know why they're not looking.
Once we send them in, they go into this vast hole out in the outer space world, and we're like, hello, anyone see you? Any feedback? Be great, thanks. And you don't hear it.
It's so funny, even just now with the casting director panel, one of the casting directors recognized me from a submission this week. And I was like, hey, well, since I have you here, what happened with that? She did. She was like, I sent you up to producers. I'm like, oh, thank God.
And your team didn't tell you that? It's gone to producers?
So this was a self-submission. I learned about self-submission, yes. But
she cornered her, my girl, right there.
No. What's so funny is that oftentimes I think even when you do go to producers, unless, they're calling you in or there's going to be an avail check or something, I feel like you're not always getting that information. But that was just a little informal. I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe I can, find out what's going on here. But it's true, it would be nice to have that, but I recognize that there's so many people that are submitted that it's going to be hard to get that.
But I kind of feel like if they sent you to submit, producers, there should just be a little button this tape was sent to producers.
How can they not tell you that? You think you're just telling me that? Honestly, how do you know?
Right. I think that's a big thing with our industry and the fact that we're trying to demystify it. Even conferences like this, right? You get casting directors who are speaking, you get managers, agents, and just to kind of demystify the process. I think a big thing that we've experienced is there's just been this curtain where it's you can't go behind there. Everybody has to just kind of just take what they can get, and slowly we're getting a little bit more transparency. So I feel like that might be coming eventually.
I hope so.
Right?
I don't feel bad because we're behind the curtain.
That's what I was gonna say.
It's nice, even though we're so close to them in terms of our relationships, we still don't get the information, which is why you don't get the information.
And not we're not trying, because we get hit up all the time. Hey, any feedback? Yeah.
We went in a different direction.
Here's my favorite line. If we haven't heard, you've heard. And truthful.
Right. No news, right? Okay, well, can we open it up to the audience here? Do you guys have any questions?
Yeah, so ultimately the actor's in charge of their own brand, and you guys do a great job helping that actor get there. Oh, I'm not soft-spoken, I think.
There's one here.
So when you're looking at a new actor, how much of their brand do you hope that they already have developed? Social media, IMDb, how much of that should they come prepared with?
Yeah, I would like to have, when I bring on clients, have a little something, have substance, know who they are, know their brand, what they're about, their types, for sure. You just can't, hey, I want to be an actor, hey, I'm good looking, look at me, I can do something. What's that going to do? We got to really pigeonhole it, we got to really dial in. So if you know that coming in, and I can tell that right from Jump Street, then we're in good shape.
And I'm okay with it not being as focused, as long as it's not too scattered. So, and I've I've actually made this error in the past of seeing like some potential in somebody, but they weren't quite sure what they wanted to do. It was like model one day, social media influencer the next, actor the next, Bitcoin something something the next day. And I learned that I can't help a moving target. Because as we said in the beginning, like we're strategizing for you. So if we don't know what we're strategizing, it makes it almost impossible. So for me, I'm okay with helping to strategize what the fit might be, as long as there's enough focus there for me.
Thank you.
Well, we talk about social media so broadly. What ones do you use the most? Instagram, excuse me. We talk about social media so broadly, and there's so many platforms. What platforms should I be using? I'm an old actress. I was a math major before there was a calculator. Okay? So I'm very focused, and I'm willing to learn. But what should I be learning?
I'm going to say something that's not going to be taken very nicely. Well, I should say that. I get asked all the time, I'm sure you do too. Do I have to have a ton of followers? Should I pay for followers? Should I have a huge social media following? No. Like, does it matter? Can you act?
Yes.
That's what I'm concerned about.
Yes.
Can you act? If the answer is yes, and you have 146 followers, sweet. You know what I mean? Compared to if you got 100,000, and you're doing hula hoop dances on TikTok, and you're putting it on Instagram too, but you can't act, like, what's that going to do for me? Yeah, you got a great following, that's wonderful, but I need to know if you can act. So, and I think social media is a big tool. I'm not knocking it. I think it's great, actually. It's a great way to reach out. It's a great way to connect. But it's not the end-all, be-all, is what I'm saying. When it comes to acting, musicians, it's a whole different game. If you're a model, it's a whole different game. Everything is different. But to answer your original question, because I went off on that one, I like Instagram. I think that's a prominent one. Facebook and TikTok.
Yeah, and I'm horrible with social media myself, so I'm just good with Instagram. And for me, because again, if I'm taking a meeting with somebody, I'm gonna go search and make sure they're real and normal and that sort of thing. So I don't even, for me, as long as it doesn't show anything that's like super crazy, I don't really think it's a huge complaint.
And we go to your Instagram, like I say, people send me submissions, their IMDb, their Actors Access. I go send me your Instagram because I just want to know what kind of person you are. I just want to see what you're doing, what you're putting on, who you're interacting with. You got a cute dog, whatever. Yeah, that's all I'm there for. I don't care about the numbers. I really don't.
It doesn't benefit you if the actor or the influencer has a ton of followers but can't act. Who does it benefit then? Because they're hiring these people and putting them in really good roles.
That's not necessarily true. Unless they've got 1 million followers, their production is hiring them to use them for their leverage to get the movie out. So that's different.
But
Yeah,
they
they
still can't act. Right?
They can't, not usually. I mean, maybe. I don't know. But I think the focus is, and tell me if I'm wrong, if someone's hiring someone who's got 15 million followers in a lead role and they can't act, then why are they hiring them? My guess is to leverage the following to see the movie to make money for the producers.
Yeah.
That's my assumption.
But that doesn't benefit you, right?
In what regard? If I'm the manager?
Yeah.
Maybe.
I think what the difference is that the likelihood that happens, it's like winning the lottery.
Yeah, it's
So
rare.
I'd rather just have really good talent that can act, because those people are gonna get booked over and over.
That's the answer right there.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Continuous work, not just one-offs.
For sure.
20
Totally.
million followers might get you one job, and I'm not about the one paycheck. I want
Yep.
checks over and over and over.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
What does a pitch look like for you guys to pitch to a casting director, any actor, any person on your roster? What does it actually look like? Because I think we're told sometimes it's just a note, sometimes it's a phone call, sometimes it's all of the above.
Yeah, that's a good question, Tony. Tony, great question. It could be a combination of things. It could be a phone call. A lot of casting directors are not in the office anymore. A lot of them working from home, so that can get a little tricky. So I double up with a submission on Actors Access. I'll try a call. If that doesn't work, I'll also pitch email, which is, hey, we'd love to get a shot for so-and-so. They just did this, this, and this. Here are the materials with the headshots. Thanks for the consideration.
I think he stole my email.
Is that you?
That's literally my email. That's exactly You know, I've seen pitches go through to casting directors that are like 17 pages, and they're not reading them. So you literally have to grab, like, listen, perfect fit, SAG, the credits as
Bullet points.
mentioned, and it's done. And it's done. They're busy, and we just want them to just kind of take a peek. And when they like our emails that are nice and short and simple and sweet, then they'll continue to open them. So we're very similar in that.
So it's strategic as hell, basically.
Strategic as hell.
Like everything else.
Because some people assume that pitches are happening every single job.
No.
No.
And yeah,
Who has the time for that?
exactly.
Well, also pitches are utilized. Pitches are utilized when it literally is that person is amazing for this role. So, I mean, I have 50 people on my roster, as I mentioned, around there. There might be, 3 or 4 people who get submitted for that. I'm only pitching one. I'm not pitching all 4 of them. I'm gonna pitch the best person. Once in a blue moon, I have one example. It was General Hospital, it was recurring, and the person needed to be a singer, like that, preferably one that had been like signed with a record label. Well, I had 2 of those people, and that's so specific and unique that I did say, hey, I actually have 2 people that fit this, but I can't remember the last time I pitched 2 people on one role.
You say that getting a manager is very marriage style, management style. How would you describe your particular individual management styles, and what do you find is probably the most common style in the industry?
There is not one answer to this. This is not a one size fits all. That's a tough question to ask. How I do it is what you're asking?
Yes. How would each of you describe your
You give too much of the honey away, people. I don't, just me, I don't know. Energy, like I said before, like, send me your stuff. I want to see your materials. I want to see your IMDb. I want to see your actors access. I want to see if your headshots look like you. If you give me headshots and your hair is a totally different color, that's not going to do me any good. Or you've got a buzz cut, or something different. Like, you've got to look like your headshots, because casting, when I send it to casting, they expect to see this person, not someone who doesn't look like that person. So, and you can change your look. I think it's great. People change their look. They do different things, whatever. Just my ask is just make sure you look like you do, and just it helps us with pitching. It helps us get in the room. It helps casting see who you are and see your likeness and see your energy. I go off of, what other stuff do I go off? I go off of you as a human being. Call me crazy. You know what I mean? Like, what kind of person you are. Tell me where you grew up. Like, what are your interests? Like, do I want to hang out with you outside of work-related, that kind of stuff. Like, if you're dead, I'm not going to bring you on. Like, it's just, I want to work, I think I told you this, I want to work with people who I like or I want to work with, because life is too short to work with. That's just how I do it. And so, it's the stupidest thing ever, but it's true. So, I want to like you. I want to root for you. I want to be all behind you 100%. So that's just kind of how I do it, and I'll know within 2 minutes if this is someone I want to work with. I want to continue this relationship.
Yeah. For me, I think if I had to say like a style, everybody in my office says I talk to my clients too much. They're like, how do you have time? I'm like, I need that. The communication, as you said before, is important to me. And usually it's like, I'm a little bit OCD, so I like to try and figure out if I've submitted you 55 times this month and we haven't got one audition, let's strategize. Like, what do you think? What do I think? So I tend to talk to my clients a lot, but I would say that in my style, I'm probably like, I'm all up in your business. That's my style.
Which is good. I think it's a good style to have. Yeah. Some clients like it, some don't.
Thank you.
So if, like, say for instance, you're with a bigger agency, you get the bigger auditions. Do managers look like that when they go for clients? Like, or does it really matter? Like, if you're with a boutique agency versus CAA or UT or something like that, do you all care about that? Or it's just like, nah, or what you got? Because I know you said you want people who can work anywhere, and that's completely understandable, that's great. But if you're signed with one person, and say the person's in Mexico or Arizona, but they can't travel, blah, 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 that manage you, just like, oh, you're CAA, bet, get that guy right there. Or you're like, oh, you're with Joe Schmo McDuty, whatever. Just doesn't matter.
Great group, by the way.
Just really just.
I think that if somebody signs with like UTA or CAA, obviously we're gonna take a look because we know they've vetted. They're not gonna bring somebody on unless they need to be on the roster. So of course it's gonna give us a second look. However, I do prefer boutique. And I also think that, and the reason why is because I think that if you're on a roster like that and you're not ready, you're not working. You're lost in the mix somewhere. That's my answer.
Yeah, that's a good answer. If you're with a big agency like that, they've done a ton of research on you, so I'm not gonna sweat it. I think it's worth a look for sure. And at the same time, we work with boutique agencies too, so it honestly doesn't matter. Like if you're right for the role and you're with the group and you're with somebody who I like working with and I trust, we're gonna take a look at you, no matter what.
When you find a new client and you're really excited about them, you guys really vibe with each other, is your approach, does it differ depending on every person?
Mine does. I literally, so my background is real estate. So I'm gonna use this analogy because, so when I got into management, I said, oh my God, this is real estate. Instead of selling houses, I'm selling people. It's no different. And I did that, I've done it for 20 years. So if I'm selling a fixer-upper, I cannot market that house like I'm selling a $2 million home. It does not work. And I also repped athletes, as I mentioned, NFL players, MMA fighters. I can't market those two people the same either. So for me, my style, and it's not a right style or a wrong style, it's just Andrea's style, is that I literally, every single person on my roster has a totally different path. I'm working a little bit differently for each person based off of what they have, what they need, and where they want to go. But that's just the way my brain works, so.
Yeah, it's scary how similar you and I are.
I know.
Excuse us for a second. So how did it? No, I 100% agree. And every situation is different. Everyone is unique. You guys are one of one. Remember that. There's no one like you out there. You are literally original. So that is real, and we know that. And so every situation is going to be different. Everyone's going to come in at a different angle. You're going to have different skill sets as somebody else that we're seeing or whatever. So it just depends on what your needs are and what you're looking for. And that's it. Simple as that. And go from there. Truly. Look outside the state. Look outside Arizona. Look at New Mexico. Look at Texas, Louisiana, Georgia. I mean, what's great now is that you guys don't have to be in the city or state where the work is. You can take here, and if you're booked, they bring you in or whatever. Or sometimes you got to be a local hire, and you get yourself there. It depends on what stage of your career you are. Like if you just want to build credits, then you might not make, like in your offered scale, whatever, you might break even on that job, but who cares? You need the credit. So if you are in the beginning, developing stages of your career, that's worth doing, by the way. Like you got to establish a career in a resume to kind of build up, and you might lose maybe $100 to the hotel or whatever, but it's worth it to build the credits. And now you got to be going for stuff in Los Angeles to try to get an LA manager. Guys, it's chess. It really is. All these strategic moves.
Thank you.
I will say that also I do have a rep here. I do know that there are some Arizona agents who do have access to the LA breakdowns. So these are questions you should be asking if you can get reps here. And with the tax incentive, hopefully TV and film credits won't be as much of an issue very, very soon.
Yeah, I heard it's happening here, right?
2023, January. We're building two $25 million studios. It's happening. It's happening.
You guys made a mistake. That's real. That's great. One more question. Who's got it?
Do you use a manager to try to expand your reach and career, or is that something to go back to talk to my agent about now and like have another sit down with them and be like, listen, I want you to submit me a little further than what we've been doing because this is what I'm looking to do, X, Y, Z.
So I would start there. Start with your agent, have a conversation with your agent, make sure you're all on the same page. And if they are just in a region where they just don't see the breakdowns or they're not seeing the bigger stuff, it might be time to get an agent in a bigger city or time to get a manager.
Right. Yeah, that's a good start.
What is the role of the manager in helping the client obtain those awards or those festivals?
Well, I actually produce as well. So for me, that, again, depending on the client, that's something that's important to me because I've seen a lot of times when successes at the festivals actually help me get an actor job, right? So I don't mind doing that, but I also think that this is probably one of those things where if you do get a manager specifically, that this is one of those introductory questions where you say, this is kind of what I do, what is your process? Because it is a little bit outside of the normal realm, and so you just want to make sure that a manager is able and willing to do those things. But for me specifically, yes, I would definitely help with like getting the press because the press is important. I can use that.
And you might just need a publicist. Depends on where you're at in the film festival ranks and how your project is doing. If you've got some buzz and momentum, it might be time for a publicist. Now, it costs a little money doing that, of course, but that's where you might be kind of next as far as what that is. But like you're saying, like align yourself with a manager who also takes that on too, who maybe got a production part of the business or does producing, and they may have the contacts to get you a publicist or to get you next level to the next the circuits and the festivals. That's cool. Good luck with that. It's great.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, everyone. Please give a warm thank